It's good to see a great crowd here, good turnout, some faces we don't see here a lot. It's good to see our hard-working grid marshal Lyle over here and many others, people we don't see a lot. We couldn't have Frank come along this time. I talked to him on Saturday and he's still not feeling pretty good these days. He'd been to a function at his nursing home and had to go back in a wheelchair, so he's not in the best of shape these days. So we're very fortunate to secure Spencer Martin coming along and having a chat with us. We're having a slightly different format tonight. We've got Paul Newby's also going to be up, and he's going to be doing something of a Q&A number with Spencer here. We're going to have a few photos showing up here. So I'd like you to welcome Spencer and also Paul Newby. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. What we're going to do tonight, as Gary explained, is instead of just having Spencer just rattle off what he did and what he didn't do in his racing career, we're actually going to have a bit of a Q&A where I'll prompt Spencer on a few things, a few points, a few cars that he raced. Brian's going to have some photos up there so that we all know what we're talking about, and we'll open up to you guys to ask any questions at the end, or if you've got any questions during it, we can probably accommodate that as well. So Spencer and I had a dry run last week at the Alpha Romeo Owners Club meeting, so we're well rehearsed, and I'll give the microphone to Spencer. I've got a loud enough voice anyway, and we'll start.
Yeah, well, thanks, Paul. Well, thanks for inviting me here anyway. If you've come to see Frank Mannix, I'm sorry. But anyway, I don't know whether Paul's going to interview me or interrogate me, but you're more than welcome to ask any questions, and we'll just pop along and see what happens. If I have a senior's moment, you'll have to help me through it. And I didn't start the morning too well. I put the toothpaste on my shaving brush, so I've got a bit of a senior's problem already in the day. But anyway,
What else would you put it on?
Yeah, it's a bit hard to clean your teeth with your shaving brush, I can tell you. But it's very nice to see Bob Britton here tonight. And Bob's birthday today too, so
Happy birthday!
And as far as telling tales go, I'll have to watch what I say, because between Bob and Peter Malloy, I'll have to keep it pretty straight, I think. Anyway.
Okay, so we're here in Denniston, and Spencer, I believe that you grew up just down the road there in.
Yep.
Just down the road in Epping. That's your phone, isn't it?
Yeah. I was born in Ryde Hospital on the top of the hill, and my early days were in Epping, and so we used to terrorise the people in the east with Epping suburbs in cars in those days.
A lot of hills to go up and down.
Yes, yeah, we did. Anyway, we had. I can remember when I had my little Herald Special, we used to take it out and test it on the road. And of course the neighbours had complained, the same with the Pratt, we used to take it out because you'd have to make sure you weren't going up to Catalina Park and you get there and the thing wasn't going to work. So you'd give it a good work out in the streets around the town before you took it up there. And of course the neighbours had complained and the police would be knocking on the door. And I can remember Mum saying, I don't know why you make this lovely man come up here. They've got better things to do than be here. But anyway, and then the cops would come down and they'd get in the garage and they'd look at the car and they'd be quite interested in what we were doing.
And of course, you were keen on motor racing from a young age, and to get to Mount Druitt, which is really the only track that in Sydney, you had to catch the steam train from Parramatta, or sometimes if there wasn't a steam train, you'd ride your bike.
Yeah, we used to do that. I mean, I go way back to Mount Druitt, and we used to, you'd get a bus to Parramatta and then get a steam train out to Mount Druitt, or ride your bush bike. And we used to use our push bike to get around everywhere. I mean, I had a mate who lived at Rockdale, and I used to ride from Epping to Rockdale, you know, once or twice a week. Just, I rode the Cessnock one day too.
Because there was no other way.
That's another story.
And those races at Mount Druitt, you really got hooked on racing from watching some of the guys in the MGTC specials and the like.
Yeah, I was only saying to Perce earlier that TCs were about 50% of the field at Mount Druitt, and all stripped down versions of them, whether they were supercharged or square riggers or special bodies. Watched the guys going around there, and I thought that I could most probably keep up with some of them, so I got the bug, I think.
And your first race car, a Nota chassis, a KM200 body shell, a tri-powered engine. It doesn't really sound like the ingredients for a race-winning car, does it?
Oh, well, you've got to start somewhere, haven't you? And I mean, I was making 10 quid a week as an apprentice, and so you didn't have a lot of money left over to build racing cars. And so I started to build the car in 1958, and my first race was at Nublar in 1960. And I was only thinking, like, once you get the car built, that's the car there, yeah. So once you get the car built, you really need a trailer, don't you? So, so I had to build a trailer. So my uncles had a trucking business and had a couple of old trucks in the backyard. So I went over and cut the chassis rails out of one of them and turned the chassis rails over, and we just get an old front axle out of a car, and all of a sudden you've got a trailer and away you go. No money, but just so much enthusiasm. Yeah.
And Spencer, that photograph there of the Triumph Special was at Bathurst, and to actually get to Bathurst, and you had to be off your three stripes, you had to be off your provisional licence. You raced at Orange, at Hume Ware and Lowood in Queensland, so you went across the country just so that you could race 200 kilometres away at Bathurst.
Yeah, that's correct. Everybody in the room here wants to race at Bathurst, and nobody more so than me. But so we did the three meetings: Nublar, Lowood, and then Hume Ware. And so one little thing that happened up at Lowood. We didn't have tyres on my car, so my father used to allow me to take the tyres off his ute. So he had 640-13 Olympic air rides on it. So I don't know any tyre people here, but you'd remember that. So I used to take the wheels off my dad's utility and put the tyres off my little race car onto his ute and put his tyres on mine to go away racing. And that's a fairly big thing when you're doing it with tyre levers and a hammer. And so we get up to Lowood, and the car was running really, really well. And because we had a bigger tyre on it, it pulled a rear wheel off the car and went straight into the crowd, which was, could have been very bad, but it hit a little two-door Anglia on the side, and it caved the car right in. So I had to get my dad's tyre. That's all I was worried about. So I said to the guy, "Don't worry, it's all insured." Grabbed my wheel and took off.
So Spencer, at that time, you were an apprentice panel beater. You wanted to work with Stan Brown. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. I wanted to be able to build aluminium racing bodies like Stan Brown used to. Stan was the #1 aluminium worker in Australia. He worked for Rolls-Royce and he built a lot of beautiful cars. And so I went over to work for Clive.
That's Clive
Adams, who was Stan was working for him. And of course, Jackie Pryor, he used to build the chassis, and that's how the Pratt got its name, Pryor and Adams. And yeah, so I worked for Clive for a couple of years, and I said one day that I was thinking of leaving, and Clive said, well, whatever you do, I don't want you to leave, I'll give you my Pratt racing car if you stay. So he said, you can take it home tonight even. I said, all right. So here's this car, which is absolutely incredible. We got a photo of the Pratt there.
I think
Anyway, so
going the wrong way.
we should have the.
There it is.
Yeah. So that car started off with an Alta engine in it, a 2.5 litre Alta engine, which was at the time was a Grand Prix Formula 1 engine, and it had a Jaguar gearbox and a Jaguar diff and DD tube in it. But apparently the car wouldn't go in a straight line. It used to steer from the back, and they eventually worked out that the DD tube was flexing. But it wasn't until what's his name, Bill, somebody rolled it, testing it at the back of Bathurst. So I rode the car off, and they took it home, and it laid in the corner of the garage for a long time. And Clive eventually put a Holden grey motor and a TC gearbox in it, with a Holden live axle in the back. And so when I got it, because of the Alta engine, the bonnet and the scuttle was very high, so I cut it down. I lowered the scuttle about 6 or 8 inches. I put the full width screen on it and fitted the bonnet and everything up to it, put the wider wheels on the back, and we went racing. So I did a lot of work on that car, and I tried to make it look like a 300S, which I think it looks very much like a 300S.
Yep. Still a good looking thing.
Well, in doing so, Spencer, you built one of the best looking specials that came out of Australia at that time.
Well, I didn't build it, but I changed it so that I thought it looked better in that form anyway.
So Spencer, you only raced that car for a year, didn't you?
Yes.
And then you went on to bigger and better things in terms of the Humpy Holden Boomerang Service Station sponsored car.
Yes, we did. We got involved. Well, I knew Joel Wakely. Joel Wakely owned the BP Boomerang down at North Strathfield, and he had a guy working for him who had a Holden there, and the guy ran out of money, so Joel bought the car, and we eventually worked on the car, and I did all the body work on it, and so we started racing. But while I was working in the panel beating business, I had a car came in, but it had been hit on the left rear, and we did the panel work on it and sent it out, and about a month later it came back in, and the left rear tyre had worn dramatically on the inside, so it obviously had a bent diff. So I said, that car's been running around for a couple of months with a bent diff. I'm going to bend the Holden diff the other way. So we took the diff out, put it on the wheel aligner, gave it a half negative each side and plenty of toe in, and that was in 1962, mind you, so I think I was one of the first to do that. And and we did lots of other things. Those early model Holdens had big cast iron shock absorbers on the diff. I took the shocks off and mounted them on the body and put a link down onto the diff. So anyway, 20 races, we run 17.
Whoa.
And Spencer, there weren't any aluminium panels on that Humpy, was there?
No, in fact, after we'd beaten Beachy 3 times and he was driving for Scuderia Veloce, Tony Simmons, you're a Scuderia Veloce. You flew for the Fura too, didn't you?
I was really following orders.
And we all did because we were frightened. But anyway, so we beat Beach, and so David said that can't happen. Beachy's the greatest man in a Holden, so we sealed the motor. And once the scrutineers declared that it was legal, David asked me to drive his brother. So that was a pretty big jump.
And Spencer, I understand that that's not your Saturday night gear. That's your racing gear attire that you've got on there as well.
Well, that's how we used to race, isn't it?
White socks.
Hey?
Bloody white socks.
This has got white
A
shoes.
bit of a dandy, you reckon, but yeah. Anyway, well, you were around Katoomba when we used to run that thing. Yeah, mate, you were with Weldon those days, weren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
And Spencer, you've got a good, an interesting story to talk about in terms of how you got your first racing suit.
Oh, well, we're sort of moving a bit quick. Mate.
Well, look, we are moving. I mean, we are moving a little bit quick, but we'll just jump ahead to the racing suit. Then we'll come back to.
All right, so we go. I'm driving a David Mackay, like the Skidoo Veloce Brabham over in New Zealand, and I've got a nylon shirt on and no seatbelt and 30 gallons of avgas in it, and away you go. So Jimmy Clark came to me and said, "Do you know we've had some bad accidents overseas, and the poison in the nylon will kill you quicker than the firewood." So I said, "Wow." He said, so he came back a little bit later and he gave me 2 of his Dunlop driving suits. And that's Jimmy Clark, and that's the type of man he was.
Yeah.
And he remind me of another thing. We're at Longford, and go down the long straight of Longford, you do 170 whole numbers, 170 plus. And Jimmy Clark and I went the whole length of the straight side by side, and like it's a country road, and you're doing 170 mile an hour side by side, and you know you're really watching everything. And he got out of the car and he said, "I wouldn't do that with many people, I can tell you." Yeah, so I thought that was a bit of a feather in my cap.
Absolutely.
Okay, Spencer. So you've got the drive with Scuderi Veloce, and before the Brabham Climax, you raced a few touring cars like the S4 Holden and the Vauxhall Viva, which we won't talk about here because we're at the HSRCA. But before you got the chance to drive the Brabham in the Tasman series, you were #1 mechanic for Graham Hill.
Yes, well, we had an old BT4, and Graham came over to drive it, and I was his mechanic. And so that was a great experience working around Graham Hill. I mean, he wasn't a natural driver, he was a very gutsy, forceful driver. And he was very pedantic as far as what he wanted done. And I've read later stories in the BRM book about how he would even be changing things on the start line. And that's how I found him too. He's all the time trying to improve the car, and well, I suppose there's a good point there too, because you're only as good as the car you sit in, aren't you? Yeah.
More oversteer.
Well, you can see, Pete, have a look at the little sway bar we put on the back of it.
Yeah.
Eh? Because, but anyway, it made him happy. Oh, there's another thing that happened too. So we're in that car, and he found out that Bibb Stewart and Jack Brabham, they're 6-inch rims, 6.5-inch rims, and Bibb had 7-inch rims, and he had to have some. Yeah. So anyway, we got the 7-inch rims, and we put the tyres on, and away he went, and he said, "You can't believe the difference." Anyway, we went home, we stripped the tyres off the old wheels, and they were 7s anyway.
And Spencer, you had a lot to do with building the Coventry Climax engines as well at that time.
Yes, well, I had a very good teacher in Bob Atkin. Bob could put those motors together, and they stayed together, and he showed me all the tricks. There was a couple of little tricks that you had to do with them, and so I put all my motors together. Both at Scuderia and when I went to Bob Jane too, when I was driving that car. Yeah.
And the Collodi gearbox there as well. It's a pretty massive unit.
Yeah, that's the whole Collodi. That was one of the nicest gearbox you could ever drive. That had drop gears on the back of it. You couldn't change the individual ratios. But but a fantastic gearbox to drive. But, you know, as you can see, a little bit heavy.
And also, so that's in the 65 Tasman series, and Graham was driving the Brabham, and he also wanted to drive the other car, didn't he?
Well, we got a new car. We got a new Brabham and the 250 LM. And then the 65, the first Tasman race. Graham, well, okay, we got to go to the car arrived. The Brabham arrived in a was sort of like a flat pack, I suppose you would say. It was just all, and I had to put the engine in it and the gearbox, and we went. Graham was driving it, the new car, at the New Zealand Grand Prix, 65, and anyway, he won the race, and I put the car together, so I felt pretty good about that because the motor kept going, and those climaxes can be cantankerous, couldn't they, Pete? Anyway, he won the race. So then that was in New Zealand Grand Prix. So we came to Australia for the continuation of the Tasman series, and the next race was at Sandown, which was the Australian Grand Prix, and it was the first race for the 250 LM. And because Graham said to David, "I want to drive the Ferrari," and because David said, No. Said the boy's going to drive the car. So David kept his word, and he let me drive the LM. And Maddie's broke down, so we had a David Bradbury, and we won the race. So it won its first race. Yeah.
So 65 Gold Star series, and you're driving for David Mackay. The Brabham and the LM250, but then come early 66, and you're entered for the Bathurst 100, but Jim Palmer takes your seat. You leave the team. Tell us about that.
Well, I don't think it's any news to people who knew David. He was a very difficult man, very hard, and I'd be embarrassed to tell you what he paid me and what I had to do to drive the cars. Well, I will, I'll tell you. That's the time I got plenty of time. So I was expected to work on in the workshop during the day, and then prepare the racing cars after working hours. And that's two cars, like an LM and a Brabham, and that's a lot of work for one guy, as you can imagine. So I said, "No, that's all right, I'll do all that, no problem." Hey?
Learned that from Jack.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're right there. And you had to supply your own tow car, and you got $100 a week. That was it. So, but as a young bloke, I would have done anything to sit in that LM.
Yeah.
You know, the first rear engine V12 GT Le Mans car, and
You would have paid him.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, I would have too. Yeah.
Didn't sleep all night.
No, it was the whiz bang car, and it wasn't competitive with the Maddiches and with the Elfins and things of the day, because it's an endurance car, and you've got to understand it had very heavy gearbox and a heavy chassis, and it was a heavy car, and only had 320 horses because it was 3 litre or 3.3. And so you know, the other cars like Neil Allen's Cave most probably had 500, 550. So you couldn't run with those cars. No.
Mm-hmm. And you did a 6-hour in Caversham with that car, didn't you?
Yeah.
And you won that, didn't you?
Yes, but the competition wasn't very strong, so we better move on. There was a few Morris Minors out there.
They were very good cars.
So after you left David Mackay, you got a job with Bob.
Yes, well, I went to Archie White and I said, Arch, the party's over between David and myself. Archie was a shell racing manager, and he said, I don't know how you put up with it for so long. But he said, anyway, wherever you go, the shell sponsorship money will go with you. So I went and saw old Alec, but I hit the wall down there. So Bob was the only alternative. And Bob was already a Shell-sponsored team, And I didn't want to go to Melbourne, but anyway, we went to Melbourne a couple of years and did the job.
And essentially the same type of car, the Rugby BT11A Climax. How did it compare with the car that you raced with Scuderia Veloci?
Oh, well, it was the same car.
It was the same car or the same type?
That's it, exactly the same car. So David said, well, son, seeing as you're going down there, I'll sell the car to Bob so that you can continue your career unabated. But what he had done was he bought Greg Cusack a brand new, or he bought Jack's Brabham Repco with the V8 Repco in it. And
Don't help bad luck.
yeah, that's right. But anyway, Bob was pretty smart. He'd already been through Repco and found out that the 2.5 Climax had more torque and more reliability than the Repco, so we were going down the right track anyway. Yeah, well, I mean, all the trouble you blokes had, mate. Oil pumps, oil, windscreen wiper motors and stuff. Yeah. On and on.
So Spencer, you won the 66 and 67 Gold Star Championship in the Brabham, and you're competing against the likes of Kevin Bartlett in 67 and in 66. Who was your main competition? John Harvey.
Yeah. Well, my lawyer built a big motor up for Harvey in his little 1860 thing. Buzzbox all around the back.
Chased you for hours.
Yeah. I remember you then, but they know the days when everybody had long hair and bell-bottom trousers, and now we've all got bell trousers, but they're flared at the top. Remember Kevin with his long hair and all that? No, Kevin was my main opposition. Harves would have been if he had a car with, there was nothing in it really. I mean, but it all gets down to the cars. Who's got the best car? I don't care how good you are if you haven't got the car. It's like Mark Webber in a Minardi is no comparison to Mark Webber in a Red Bull. And as Mark said himself, you can't win the Melbourne Cup on a donkey. And that's true.
And your drive at Bathurst at 67 against Kevin Bartlett, where he set the 100-mile-an-hour lap, and then you did likewise in that same race. That must have been quite a duel.
Yeah, it was madness, really. It was sheer madness. Sheer madness. I mean, you think about it now, that's a bit of it. And no seatbelts in those cars, and as I said, we've got most probably only 20 gallons in them there without gas, but you go over the hump, because there was no catalytic chase, and the car would take off, and you're looking at the nose and waiting for it to come down, and come down, and then you're hoping the wind was blowing the right way because you'd end up off the road. So that was really, and they say, what was it, the thrill is in proportion to the risk. Jeez, it was exciting.
Spencer, did you ever drive Bob Jane's Elephant 400?
Yes, I did. I drove it. You didn't ask me that last week.
No, I didn't ask you that last time.
You're off the script, mate. I drove Bob's car, the 400, a few times. I can recall Bob said Bevan Gibson was a mechanic, and I was in the workshop with him, so he said, I want you to take the Elephant out and give it a run out at Calder. So Bevan and I went out there, and there wasn't anybody there. I mean, it was just Bevan and myself, and so I got in the car, and I'm really getting right into it. And when you think about it, if we'd have had an accident or anything, no mobile phones, nobody within Cooey, So anyway, Bevan's got the clock and he's going bang bang. He said, Bevans, look what you've done. So we go back and we told the boss. And the boss said, bullshit, you can't do that. Load her up tomorrow and we're going back. Anyway, I did the same times the next day. Yeah. So and then I drove the car down at Hugh Weir.
Okay.
Yeah, and had a battle with Oh, thanks, Mike. With Alan Hamilton at the time, but yeah, we broke the lap record and did all sorts of things in it. Yeah.
And Bob James drove that car at Bathurst, didn't he? The Alpha.
Not to my knowledge. I know Bevan did when he was fatally injured.
So, and of course, you were Bevan Gibson's flatmate for a couple of years down in Melbourne too.
Yeah, well, when I went to Melbourne, I lived with Bob in his house for a while, and then I think he had a few too many birds coming and going, so he said, "It might be time, boys, if you move out." Yeah, so Bevan and I ended up sharing a flat, just down the road from the workshop in Brunswick. Yeah.
And you were there at Easter '69, that terrible day when Bevan was killed.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a very, very sad day. Yeah.
But you retired from frontline racing at the end of 1967. Why was that?
Oh well, I mean, I've been in it for 10 years. I didn't have a brass razor in my pocket, and a lot of pats on the back. So I thought, and I met a really special bird. So I thought it's time to do something. Yeah. So I moved on and made a few dollars.
Uh-huh. But you did race touring cars for a few years up until about 1970.
And I think it was 69 where I drove the 350 Monaro when we ran out of brakes.
And Sandown.
Sandown, yeah. So Harry Horriblefirth recruited us. And Harry Horrible. And he said, oh, well, you know, he recruited 2 racing car drivers. He wanted, so he got Kevin Bartlett and Spencer Martin, and they were going to do the job in this Monaro. But he said, I found out later I could drive around one hand quicker than both of them, you know. They weren't that special, you know. So anyway, halfway through the race, the brake pedal goes right to the floor. We got
I don't think we've got a photograph of that. It's a touring car.
Right. So when the brake pedal goes right to the floor, and it is amazing how slow things happen. 120 mile an hour, pedals on the floor. You've got to do something, son. You're going to go, this is going to be pretty nasty. So grab the handbrake and I pulled it right out of the dash. That didn't slow it down. Jammed it into 3rd gear. This was at the end of the straight at Sandown where you go on the bridge. Go on the bridge. So I threw it to the corner, got it around backwards and went straight into the arm cove backwards, and it drove the muffler right through the petrol tank and out the other side. So the fire, and that was horrendous. It was amazing. But anyway, they jammed all the doors, and so I had to climb out through the window, and the ambulance bloke got hold of me. He said, "Come here, son." And you should have seen the look on the ambulance bloke. He was right there. He saw it all happen. It frightened the crap out of him. It did. I said, "I'm all right." You know. Anyway, I had to go and sit in the ambulance for a while to help him out. So.
Now, Spencer, you had a road accident before Bathurst, and you did.
Wait, just before you go on, I got something got to say this. So, 20 years later, Frank Lowndes came up to me, Craig's father, who was a early term mechanic, and he said, "Did you ever find out why the brakes failed in that car?" I said, "No, I never did, Frank." He said, "I put the wrong brake pads in it, and I'm sorry."
Oh!
Well, he said, "I waited." He said, "You won't believe it, but in changing them around and bedding the pads in and everything, I've put the standard pads back in." So anyway, I don't know if Harry ever was told that.
Now, you didn't race at Bathurst that year because you had a road accident just before Bathurst. But having crashed the Monaro at Sandown, you then returned in 1970 and you raced the Monaro at Warwick Farm in Sydney, the boy there at Bankstown Monaro.
No, I only had one go at that. That was at
Oran Park, and you won.
Oran Park. Yeah, we got disqualified, yeah. Because somebody jammed. Yeah, the mechanic, in his eagerness to get more horsepower, had got a screwdriver and jammed it through the air filter. We won the race and disqualified because the mechanic had... Anyway, we've got better stories than that one.
Yes, and I think your last major race was Bathurst 1970 in an XC1, and then nothing for about 10 years.
Yeah.
You making some money.
Well, that was the main aim, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you got back into racing back in the early 80s when you bought a share of the LM250 that David Mackay was trying to sell, and what happened there?
Well, David was in a demonstration down at Sandown Park where Fangio was in the Mercedes, and anyway, an oil line came off the Ferrari, and David had a pretty bad smash, and he ended up in hospital. And even though we hadn't spoken for quite a while, I sent him a telegram, as you did in those days, and he was fairly touched by that. He invited me to go overseas with him, so I did a few Grand Prix with him, and eventually he sold me quarter share in the 250 LM and said, how about we take it to Laguna Seca, because there's a demonstration thing on over there. And I said, yeah, that sounds pretty good. So when we get there, there's 4 other 250 LMs, one driven by Stephen Earl, who's Formula 1 bloke. And there's 20 odd other Ferraris in the race, plus Bob Bondurant in a Cobra Daytona, yeah. So we're going around, and I said to David, look, we're off the pace. So I said, we've got to get some tyres on this thing. You know, we've got Firestones that are about 8 to 10 years old. And so I said, all right. So Stephen Earl had Goodyear Blue Streaks on, low profile, sticky as bugbear. So anyway, we put them on it, and we blew them all away. We were first Ferrari home, and third in the race behind Bob Bondurant, but that's actually out in Laguna. They're the shots, yeah.
Now, just going back a little bit with the LM250, David Mackay's often said that he would have liked to have taken you to Europe. He was good friends with Mike Parks, and he would have got you a drive in the sports car team. Did he ever say anything to you at the time?
No, not at the time. It was all sort of talk after the party was over. Yeah, I mean, he was going to do wonders, but it was all too late. Yeah. In other words, BS. Yeah.
And just one last diversion on the touring cars. I mean, we talk about David Mackay. I guess we can't really forget 1979 Bathurst, can we?
Well, David came to me and he said, son, would you like to go to Bathurst and race a 242? And I thought, oh, they're the Ferrari agents, it must be a Ferrari. So I said, count me in. Yeah. Anyway, it was a 242 Volvo. Anyway, the car went pretty well. I mean, you know, you really want to look at the statistics of it. It went very well, but was never going to win anything. I mean, blokes have got slicks and hotted up. We had Uni-Royal, stock standard radials and all that, the radio and the air conditioner in it, the whole bit. Anyway.
And that car still survives as well, so...
It's in Brisbane at the moment. Final restoration's taking place. It could hit the deck this year.
Okay.
Yeah, Blake's been talking to me about that one, yeah.
So you went to America with the LM250,
yeah.
And I understand that a very well-known fashion designer bought that car after you'd raced it there.
Ralph Lauren noticed the car, and obviously it was the quickest, by far the quickest LM there. And so he sent his spies out, David flew the car straight back home. He said if they want it, they can come out and see us. So within a week, there was a bloke out on my doorstep out at Kellyville and wanting to have a look at the car. And David reckoned it was worth 500. So we said, 500's a number. So we didn't argue one bit. $500,000. And in 18 months, it was worth $5 million. Well, he was pretty smart, Loren, because he didn't mind paying the top dollar. I mean, it was $100,000 more than had ever been paid for an LM. But he didn't mind paying the top dollar because he set the benchmark, and that dragged all the rest of them up. A bit like buying units in town who'd sell a penny and all that stuff.
Doesn't look like that anymore, though, does it?
What created Ralph Lauren to change the car.
Well, he didn't change it much. I mean,
It's exactly like that. I saw it in a museum in Paris only 2 years ago.
the Louvre,
Yeah, and it had the green stripe across the front. Still had your name on the side, Spencer.
did it? God bless him. He did, didn't he?
Oh, good.
That's nice.
I thought it might have been changed.
The rear end of the car, the rear end of the car, Paul, has been changed.
Well, it still looks like that.
Oh, that's dropped.
Yeah, no, he wouldn't change much. No. What he did, so he took it to, what's his name, Phil Riley in San Francisco and said, I want you to give it a tune-up. It's not running right down low. It wasn't idling. So Riley said, well, all the throttle spindles are worn in the carburetors, and that's fair enough. They were. So then he said, well, how far do you want to go with this, Mr. Loren? And he said, well, I want it to be the best LM in the world. So they pulled the whole thing right apart, everything out of it, and redid the engine, gave it an American restoration. And, they put blue seats in it. They said that it had blue seats in it when it was new, and I said it didn't have blue seats, they were black. I know. I sat in it from day one, I know, and whole chassis paint. Inside the lights they painted silver and all that. Anyway, doesn't matter, they owned it, they could do what they like, couldn't they? But that wasn't original.
And Spencer, was that your favourite car of all the cars that you've raced?
That's a hard one, Paul. I've driven a lot of cars, and that was a real darling of a car. I mean, the noise that car made, inside and out, was sensational. It was a bit like driving a touring car. It was a fairly heavy car. It certainly wasn't like driving an open wheeler. It wasn't as nimble. And of course it had Barani wheels on it, and Barani wheels are not round. Because has anybody got wire wheels on their car? They're not round. Full stop. So we had 14 wheels, and we're all the time trying to find 2 round ones to put on the front of it.
Spencer, what about the lightweight E-type? We haven't talked about that.
Oh yeah, David, that's a good one.
Bob Jane's car.
Yeah, well, I drove the lightweight E-type. First meeting was at Corler, and Tony Osborne was in a Buick, Cooper Buick, like Bibb Stillwell's old car, and anyway, I rubbed up against him. So it wasn't a very good start with the Bob Jane racing team, but I think the thing that gave me a lot of pleasure was we came to Warwick Farm, and Andy Buchanan was driving the 250 LM, and it was a pretty good hand, and I blew him off in the U-type, so it sort of didn't help David and my relationship much.
So come the early 90s, you started racing over in Europe, some classic sports cars owned by the collector Gary Manolis. And Brian, I think we've got some photographs of some of the cars there, and maybe we can sort of talk about the cars that...
Well, this all started off in '84 at Laguna when I met Kerry Manolis. I mean, I'd known him from the Ferrari Car Club, but he was showing a 225, the 225 at Pebble Beach. And so when we came back, he said he had a 300S Maserati he'd like me to drive. So I said, that looks like a pretty good thing, we'll have a go on that. So yeah, that's
Amaru.
that's Amaru, that's just a demonstration thing, but I raced that at Laguna Seca too. When we took it over to Laguna, it didn't have the right brakes on it, and we ran out of brakes real easy. So we eventually put 250F brakes on the front, which was the last of the drum brake, massive drums, fin drums with 3 big leading shoes and about 6 inches wide, and they lasted for another 3 laps and cost £20,000.
So Spencer, that Maserati was just like driving the Prat Evolve, wasn't it?
In your dreams. The 300S was a lovely car. We'll go on to that one. That's the 300S was had a transaxle in the back, beautiful gearbox, great handling car and a very strong 3-litre engine, yeah. But that's a 375mm. That's another car that Kerry had. That was, it used to run in the Panamericana, and they used to do 185 mile an hour on the road in that thing.
Was that a bit of an animal to drive, Spencer? Too much power, not enough handling?
No, nothing's got too much power, but that thing it was, I mean, it had cart springs in it, you know, and all that sort of stuff, so she was pretty old-fashioned handling. The 1950s handling, that was, yeah. But, you know, a pretty willing thing to go. That, now, here is the car. Yeah. So the car we had before that was a 250 TR pontoon, which is the Ferrari with the cut-out mudguards, you know. So we raced one of those, and I said to Kerry, bloody drum brakes, you know. I'm jack of drum brakes. I'm pushing the back out of the seat, and then so he looked around, and this car came up. Now that's one of the first cars, Ferrari sports cars with disc brakes, and that car was owned by the Rodriguez brothers.
Oh, okay.
And you'll see it in the latest motorsport, the one with the green cover that Johnny Pierce has got, and he's going to lend me. And it's got it's advertised for sale, and it's got Mexico written across the front of it. So that's just to denote that there was a Rodriguez brothers car.
And that's the V6, the 1916er, so a little Ferrari.
It was a 196, so it was a 2-litre car. V6, gearbox up the front, a live axle, but a lot lighter than a normal 250 TR like the V12. And we could blow the V12s off in that. And well, one little thing I'll tell you, some of the mechanics are like this one. So we run around Rapuna Park, and it's got positive camber on the front. And I said, this is a dog. We've got to do something about this. So it's got no adjustment. Ferraris, those early Ferrari sports cars have got no adjustment. They come out of the factory and that's it. So I did all our restorations, and I said, we have to get negative on the front of this thing because we're wasting our time. So they said, well, you can't adjust it. So I said, well, back to the old bending days. So I said, get me an exhaust pipe cutter. And I cut an inch out of the top chassis tube between the two wishbones across the top, and they were hemorrhaging. So we got a ratchet and pulled the top in, welded it up. We had 3/4 negative each side, which is like about 1 1/4 more than what I had, and a different car. And then we did a lot to the diff in that car to get the limited slip working. So the diff working and a bit of sway bar stuff and that, they couldn't get us.
The Aussie way.
The Aussie way, yeah, you better believe it, yeah. That's at Laguna, that's before the race on the dummy green. Not a bad looking car, is it? Beautiful looking thing, yeah.
Still got Baronis.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a few more photographs of the 196. And you raced that in America and in Europe, right? The Nürburgring and the sort of thing.
Yeah, well, we had a big race at the Nürburgring in that. That's what we're doing. But at the Nürburgring, we won the main race. We had a couple of birdcage Maseratis in it too. And so we won the trophy, which was donated by the Bugatti car company, and I tell you, the trophy's this big and you'd reckon you won the German Grand Prix. And the bloke, I bet, what was his name? You should have seen the look on his face when we carted this trophy away.
Where's that car now? Do you know?
This car, we sold it to some English lord, I've forgotten his name now, but it's been sold a couple of times. It was originally a Rob Walker car too, so you can always tell it'll have RWR written on it. It's a Rob Walker number plate. We won the race at this race here. We won this race. This is at Laguna, and we won the Phil Hill Award for the best presented and performance car of the whole meeting. And so it was like winning the America's Cup. They really didn't want to let you have it.
Circle with the cup.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so we've got a few more photographs of the 196.
That's in Germany. Yeah, that's in Germany. That's at the Nürburgring.
And here we go.
So this is the C-Type. This is the ex-Sterling Moss C-Type. And I raced this car at Monaco. And that was the best historic meeting I've ever been to, besides HSRCA's. And it was really... Yeah, so that was a special car because it was the last of the C-types, almost a prototype D-type, where it had disc brakes, Webers, all the jam. It was a really, really top car. Anyway, we won our class there. The main opposition was Gary Pearson, and Gary's father, John Pearson, he used to work at the Jaguar factory when the C-types and the D-types were in their prime, so they had a pretty good car.
And the track, Monaco track, what was that like to drive?
Well, Bathurst is good. I mean, there's a big fuss to drive around Bathurst, but when you drive around Monaco, you've been there, Simo? Did you go? You didn't go with your former gym?
I've been racing.
Yeah, no, I mean, so much history there. You know, when you see, like, Rosemire or somebody coming out of the tunnel backwards in an auto union and all of that stuff, you think, gee, some of these blokes are brave. But
lots of historic things to hit.
There what?
Lots of historic things to hit.
Yeah, oh yes. Yeah. But the thing is, the presentation. The historic meeting is a week before the Grand Prix, so the racetrack is set up with all the flag marshals, all the fireys, and everything. So it was really, really well done. And in the evening they have the most incredible presentation where Prince Albert, Princess Stephanie, and all of these people are there, and they get the winning cars up on the dais, and they have it was a black tie dinner, of course, and they got about 10 or 12 violinists going around serenading each table, and at the end of the evening the roof opens up and because the fireworks are on. So it was quite an incredible experience to be there.
We have that at Wakefield Park.
I've been to the Christmas party.
You've got this organised, have you, Noel? Yeah. Oh, good.
Damn, I've got the fireworks.
So Spencer, we move on to another beautiful red Italian car, but this time it's an Alfa Romeo 33 Stradale with the 2-litre V8 in it.
It had a 2-litre V8 and it sounded like a Remington 9.8 and it sounded like a DFV. Really little screamer. It was a beauty. 6-speeder and so we're a bit out of our depth there. There was some of the cars in the class blew us away and that, so it wasn't an ideal car for the class, but anyway, we had a lot of fun in it.
And it looks gorgeous.
Yeah, good looking too.
Yeah, that's a Rapana.
So that's another couple of photos there of that car. I guess against the 3-litre cars, it just didn't have enough poke, did it?
Oh, no. Well, I mean, it's all horsepower, isn't it? 2 litres can't beat 3 litres. 2.5 can beat 3 litres sometimes.
So we're back to the Maserati?
Yeah, that's the Maserati, and that's at Wigram. That's at Wigram at Wings and Wheels. And that was a really great meeting. It was obviously it's an airstrip meeting and a circuit, but they gave all of that land plus the airstrip, everything back to the Maori. So that's the end of that. No more racing.
Okay. And I mean, you drove most of the 50s sports races, the Jaguar, the Ferraris, the Maserati. Which one do you think was the pick in terms of the racing car to drive?
Well, that's pretty hard. He was the best racing driver ever in the world, But it's a bit like the later the car, the better it is. Like a 60 model car always drives better than a 50 models car. I suppose satisfaction. The 250LM would be a standout. The 300S, of course, the Dino, our 196 Dino, I can't forget that. That was just sensational. Yeah. And the Humpy Holden.
So Spencer, it's always the default answer that your favourite racing car is always the next one.
Yeah, well, that's what Ron says, isn't it? Yeah, that's a Toranac saying that. Yeah, but it's true too. I mean, every car is obsolete within a year or two. Well, yeah.
Now we get to the Brabham BT23D Alfa Romeo, and that was the car that you raced at the first Tasman Revival in 2006. A car that you never competed against in the day, was it?
Oh, no. But, that car came a year after I retired. Kevin and Frank drove that car. But I was down at Wakefield Park and Paul Moxon, I was driving for Warwick Miller. Paul Moxon came up and said, would you like to drive my Brabham? And I said, well, which Brabham? He said, the Gardner car. And I said, I haven't sat in one of those for 40 years. You've got to be kidding. He said, no. He says, I'd like to have a go. So it took him 20 years to put that car together. 20 years, really. And he said he wanted me to drive. So I said, well, I'll drive it, but I've got to have at least 2 or 3 tests in it to start. So we get out. First test was at Eastern Creek. Go out the pits, go down to turn 2, and I spun it. I thought, you got no chance in this thing, you know. So anyway, I went up the back straight and the motors are revving. I thought, bloody hell, must have some paper. I don't know what's going on with this thing. So I came in and I said to Mox, how old are the tyres on this? He said, they're 10 years old. We just want to use these to get you warmed up. I said, bloody get them off, you'll kill me. Anyway, we put some good tyres on it and then we could settle down to doing a few laps. But I was going down the straight and it blew an oil line off. And Mox nearly hemorrhaged because this motor was so special. And I saw straight away, turned it off, pulled straight in, and before turn 1, pull up. And Mox ran down and he said, what's happened? I said, well, Mox, there's no problem. I said, I've turned her off. It hasn't done 50 metres on full throttle. So I said, okay. So he takes the oil filters out and has them all analysed to see if there's any metal or anything. But anyway, she was right, and away we went.
And Spencer, that engine had a lot more poke than even the 2.5 Repcos of the day.
Oh yeah, that is a sensational engine, that little Alpha engine. I mean, it was 4 cam, 4 valve, twin ignition, injected, all the jam. She was a good one. And 320 horses. A Repco's got 270.
10.
What? Yeah, what do they have, Pete? 270.
Oh, if you're lucky.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, they had 270 for 5 minutes.
250.
Yeah. yeah. But that's a genuine 320 horses, isn't it?
And that wasn't for long.
That's what I just said, 5 minutes. Yeah.
And Spencer, that was really your last race, and you're up against John Smith in the 3 litre 49. I mean, you drove a hell of a race to finish second and almost, within striking distance of John.
Yeah, well, Smithy's a great driver and the car wasn't very good. Smithy's car definitely lacked maintenance, and so we were lucky to nearly get him because ours was like brand new and his was pretty ragged actually. But anyway, we had a lot of fun.
And a 2-valve engine, wasn't it?
Sorry?
That was a 2-valve engine.
The Alpha?
Yeah.
4.
What's 4?
4 valve, 4 cam. Yeah, mate, she had just a good car. Yeah. Lucas mechanical injection, huh?
Yeah.
What did you do to get yourself into shape for that, physically?
Yeah, I was very keen. I wasn't out there to have my photo taken, Tony. I was out there to get into it, and I started running and did a lot of exercise because I thought that Kevin was going to be driving the Mildred car. And I thought, well, the bastard's not going to get me.
Good stuff.
He was pissed off that you were in his car.
Yes.
Yeah, he was too.
He couldn't fit into it.
Yeah, exactly, because he couldn't fit in it. That was another thing that pissed him off.
And Spencer, you also had a run in Peterson's BT23 as well. How did that compare to the Alpha?
Well, the Repco motor was no comparison to the Alpha. The Repco was like a light switch. It was right on. They tweaked it right up to get horsepower, but it had no torque. And Peter got it running a hell of a lot better, over the years. But that's at Oran Park. But no, I didn't. I didn't enjoy driving it. Nothing like the Alpha.
Okay. And your son Matt raced Formula Ford in the 90s, and he raced against a driver that a few of us here might know of. Tell us the story there.
Yeah, well, where do you start and where do you finish? So Mark Webber had his first race at Emerald Park, and that's when I met him. He and his father Alan, and we became very good friends. And we used to go to different race meetings interstate, and we'd always hire a tent ahead and put, Matt and Mark were in the same tent, and we just let them go out and race and see, let them go. But anyway, we became very good friends with Mark, and so yeah, I went over to England with him and done a few things. Mm-hmm. And he lived at my place at Kelly. Well, he came to Sydney to get a job at the driving school out at Oran Park, and he lived at my place at Kelly.
Mm-hmm. And you're going over to see him the US Grand Prix later this year.
Yes, well, a few weeks ago I got a text message from Mark, and it said I'd like you and Matt to come to the US Grand Prix the week in LA, and all the airfares and accommodation are on me.
Beauty.
So, indication of where we're standing.
And he's pretty level-headed, isn't he, Mark? He hasn't changed from when you used to know him as a young teenager.
No, Mark had never changed. It never go to his head. He's just he comes from a very good family, and sort of say no more. He's a good guy, just a good guy. Yeah, down to earth, no BS.
And a hell of a racer.
Yeah, he's good. Yeah, well, people think, well, Vettel is the only bloke that's ever matched him as a teammate. I mean, he's had Coulthard, he's had Rosberg, he's had all those people, and he's blown them all away. But his height and his weight come against him a little bit now, so that's a little bit of a problem. But I don't know what goes on with the starts. Whoever says the clutch needs a boot in the bum.
It's the wrong switch.
Where, you've only got to press the button when the light goes in. That's all you can do. I mean, it's all,
Marco might have a bit to do with that, mate.
Yeah, well, as I said to you earlier, Gary, you can understand Helmut Marko wanting Vettel to be up there, because he's going to be there for a lot more years than Mark is. He's German, and the company's Austrian-German, and there's, they'd sell more of that stuff over there than here, so, and not only that, Marco's on a big percentage of what he gets, so he's certainly pushing his barrier.
And Spencer, just to wrap it up, just going back to your racing days in the Tasman series, you raced against a lot of great drivers like Graham Hill, Jackie Stewart, Jimmy Clark, and your hero was Jimmy Clark, wasn't it? What was he like compared to the other guys?
Jimmy was a very genuine guy. He's a bit like Mark, just a really genuine bloke. And I think he was the greatest racing driver the world's ever seen. I mean, a bloke that could go around the Nürburgring, around the old Nürburgring, 9 seconds quicker than anybody, and then get out and they say, well, that's fantastic. He said, I can go faster. I said, well, why don't you? He said, I'm frightened the car will break. And wouldn't you, sitting in a Lotus?
Hey,
Well, right, sorry, Brian. I'll withdraw that.
Okay, well, before we wrap that up, are there any questions from the audience for Spencer?
Who was quicker down the Homebush strip, you or Bobby?
Oh, let's go back, mate. We broke 3 crankshafts out there. And it wasn't for over revenue either. So the story is, we used to be the brickworks out here, and we used to test the cars out there, and the old Holden cranks, until Waggett came up with a solution, which was this enormous big Jaguar harmonic on the front, and we never broke another crank after that, but we broke 3 or maybe even 4 before we got the first race meeting. That's really, they get the death rattles, Peter, and it's about 5'8", they come in, 5'8". But anyway, yeah, we broke a few cranks, but once we got her going, she was good, wasn't it? Yeah, she was good. And Bob Gray put all that money together. Bob was the apprentice of the year at NRMA, and he's so diligent and fastidious. He just did a fantastic job. Nearly as good as you, Pete. Sorry?
Bobby worked for me for a while.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I did series with Tempe.
Oh, did he? Yeah, I didn't know that. No. Yeah, top bloke, yeah. We had a lot of fun in those days, geez. Gee, the mateship was fantastic, you know, so we get up to Katoomba, and we did the clutch, and we all had our jobs, and it's pouring rain, and you're out in the open, there's no pits like these blokes, you wouldn't know, bloody pits. You know, we're out in the grass and the water's running under the car, and we've got the stands under it, you don't know if the stands are going to sink into the mud, and we're going like rabbits underneath pulling the gearbox out. I mean, I had the job, my job was to take us, doesn't matter about the speed of the driver, get the starter motor, you know. I had to do all that, other blokes did other things, and, you know, bang the gearboxes out, clutches in, we're in the next race, away you go.
It was still the same as 77 at the back of the wheel in the dirt and the mud.
Yeah.
Change the gearboxes.
Yeah. And we get...
That's 3 guys per car.
Oh, yeah. So we get down to Sandown, and it's the Holden Trophy race, see, and so Beach is there, and so we've got the motor's got the death rattles, see. So Bob said, we're in Bob Jones' place at Brunswick, he said, I'll give you anything if you can beat that bastard Beachy. Anything you want you can have if you can beat Beachy. So I said, well, so you can take the motor out of Billy's car. No, we won't do that. No. So Bob said, no, we'll put a new crank in our motor. He said, you got to be kidding. We had a crank in 5 hours. Motor out, crank in, back in. Billy Burns was there, he said, couldn't believe it. Could not believe it. Everybody had their job and you just go.
But they weren't the hardest car to work on, were they?
Oh, no. He's spoiling the story, mate.
That's the way it was.
Yeah, mate.
What year did you drive the C-type at Monte Carlo?
97 it was. Yeah, 97. Yeah, we did a lot of things in 97. We did Laguna, and then we went in the Colorado Grand, and then we went to Silverstone, and then Monaco. So we did 4 big meetings that year. And the Colorado Grand was 1,000 kilometres across Colorado. Yeah, and started off at Steamboat Springs, and there was all the cops were on side, and the money was for the patrolmen that had been killed on the job, for their wives or their families. So they said, we'll turn a blind eye to everything, but if you do something really silly, you're on your own. And boy, was it a burn. We had a 250 short wheelbase Ferrari, very special one. It was what was called a hot rod. Thinner chassis tubes, all aluminium, perspex, TR motor, 320 horses, and yeah, we were ballistic, I tell you, it was silly. That car there is the old Alpha. It's a 1931 Alpha that won Le Mans in 1931, and it was the first Italian car to win Le Mans. And Kerry bought that car, and then he, of course, it was an 8C, and I drove that car. I don't know whether the supercharged scream was as loud as a gearbox, but anyway, it was a very noisy thing to drive. But what was I going to say about that car? Oh yes, so Kerry got it, and when it won in 1931, it had to have 4 seats in it. Like the old blower Bentleys and that, they had 4 seats. So, but in that version there, it was cut down, had a short chassis, and it was converted into a Monza. So Kerry, he likes everything to be original, so he lengthened the chassis and made it back into what it was, 4-seater, and painted it the Alpha red.
Okay. Has Kerry still got some nice cars?
He's only got one. He's got a 275 GTB 4 cam, and yeah, I mean the price on that's gone through the roof. Ian knows about that.
What happened to the Alpha 33 Stradale? Where'd that go?
Don't know. Just went into someone traded it. He was a bit of a trader, like, you know, I don't know. He usually traded to buy something else or to buy swap, whatever they do.
Did you have any influence on what Kerry was buying? Did you sort of advise him at all?
No, none at all, except I said I wanted a car with disc brakes. I'd had drum brakes. I mean, you really didn't know if you were going to stop, you know, in the drum brakes. But no, I didn't have any influence on what he did as far as because he's an investor, really. I mean, he would not buy anything that wasn't genuine. Works cars were especially, and also drivers who had special drivers that had been in them, if they had history. So all the things that a real investor does, that's what he did. And they always went up, of course.
Paul Samuels was over in Europe at the same time you were in his Lotus. Was he doing the same sort of stuff that you were?
Yeah, well, Paul talked us into going over there. Yeah, so Paul had been over to Silverstone and places like that, and we were talking to him, so he said, come around to our house. So we went down. He was living at Mona Vale at the time. We went down there and we had a look at some videos, and we said, boy, that's pretty good. So the next thing we were over there and lined up on the grid. And Sambo looked after us too. He was good. Yeah. And Michelle, you know, he was good too. Yeah. Well done.
Okay.
Anyway, thanks very much, fellas.
Thank you.
Yeah, I noticed nobody went to sleep, and that's a good test for me.
Thank you, Spencer. That's a very entertaining night. And Paul, thank you very much. We've got a couple of little appreciations there from the HSRCA. You could try those for size. One for you, Paul.
Thank you.
And by that, Spencer, see how that fits you. You can wear that with pride to the US Grand Prix.
Oh, yeah.
We've got another little chore for you here. Ron's done a fabulous job fleecing everybody on the raffle tickets.
Oh, right.
So we'll get you to...
This will be embarrassing if I pick mine out.
Or mine.
All mine.
We used to run a raffle at the golf club, and the blokes used to pull the number out, and they knew which number they made out. The number is 28.
No, wrong. No.
What colour, Gary? Because there's 3 different...
Orange 28.
No, that's...
Oh.
This one.
Orange 28. Someone must have that. I certainly didn't get that.
Not red, is it?
No.
Red or orange?
No, orange 28. Oh, here we go. Over here.
Early down on the beach, I was just going to say.
We've got a book here for you. Somewhere down here in Graham's book. And thanks, Ron, for doing that. Also, can we have a round of applause for our roadie, Brian Court-Smith, for get Spencer to do another little job for us. He's going to scroll on this picture for us. Maybe up here somewhere. There we go. It'll work. No, down here somewhere.
Nobody can see it.
Do it big.
Yeah.
Yes. Looks great.
Great stuff. Yeah.